And our goals change, don't they? Our goals change. I think our purpose evolves. And so do we, right? I mean, there was 20 years of my life where my purpose was 100%. I loved my life and the clients that I led as a sports agent. Man, was it meaningful. Man, was it powerful. Man, did I love it. Wow. But then I wrote a couple books, and then I started getting asked to speak, and that filled me up way more. The opportunity to share these unique stories from the perch, an incredible blessing, and a perch of courtside seat. At some level, I say a privileged perch of seeing some of the best athletes and coaches in the world every single day. And so sharing those stories with others, both in business and otherwise, it was so fulfilling. Game changers, friends, what's up? I'm excited to dig into a topic today, a word today at some level that I'm posting up Webster a little bit because I think we need to rethink this word in service of where we are in the world right now, in service of the things that are happening in the world right now. And I think now more than ever, it's more important for us to dig into this topic. And so I want to unpack this a bit for you. And I want to redefine, sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Webster, the word drive. You know, as a sports agent and now on my podcast, I've seen what it takes to achieve, right? And what happens after you achieve and what's at risk if the sole focus is on achievement, right? What happens after you achieve and what's at risk, what's at risk is so real. What's at risk is things that I think we're seeing so much right now in the world, sadly. Burnout, fatigue, this belief that external rewards will fill us up, and they won't. And so what happens more than ever now is we chase achievement, right? We chase at some of this hustle. But the hustle culture, it's dead. And so is the traditional definition of drive. And here's why. Drive in the traditional sense is this pursuit to achieve a goal. And so when you think about that, it's finite. It's this linear pursuit of an outcome, right? You work toward your goal, and then when you achieve it, you stop. I mean, that is how we would think about that. And the definition is commonly the energy and determination to achieve things. That is the traditional definition of drive, right? So in other words, you train for a marathon, you run the race, and then you hang up your sneakers. Check the box, hang up the medal, check the box. You double down on your sales goals and you hit your quota halfway through the month, and then you coast. Now more than ever, we need to think about this differently, because here's what's at risk. Here's what's at risk with that mindset: complacency. And people don't really like to talk about this. This word is something that is not very comfortable for people, because complacency feels like you've really got to own that word. Like it's all you. You can't really point your fingers at maybe why you're that way. People are so much more comfortable saying I'm a little bit stuck, because maybe there's an opportunity to sort of point to sort of all the other things that could be keeping you a little bit stuck that are external from you. But complacency is kind of a word you feel like, man, that's inside of me. And here's what's interesting. Drive and complacency, they battle each other inside of each of us all day long. And because complacency has the competitive edge, right? As humans, we like the common, right? We like the familiar. And so without even awareness, and really what I want to unlock in you is this arsenal that we all have to beat it. And if we don't, guess what? Complacency usually wins, right? If we're not actively defending ourselves against it, we're probably going to slip into it. It's sort of like I always say complacency is like this invasive weed. And it sort of covertly penetrates our lives to sort of come to the surface. And often when and where we maybe least expect it. Complacency is it's a lack of progress, but it's an unintentional, often lack of progress. It's like this silent killer that invades our souls and it steals our dreams. And it's causing us to live a life of regret. It can even disguise itself, right? It can sort of lure us into this trap and maybe suffocate our hopes of a better life. And don't get me wrong, like there is absolutely a time and a place to recharge, to reflect, to restore, of course. I'm not talking about contentment. I'm talking about complacency. And here's the other thing about it. When we think about drive, I think people often think it's exhausting. Man, that sounds like a lot. It shouldn't be exhausting. And this is why I want to unpack this. We can redefine it so that we, at some level, are living into recharging and reflecting instead of allowing drive to create burnout. This new definition of drive that I'm going to share with you is one that actually keeps burnout at bay. It keeps complacency at bay. Because when we stay stuck in the eddies, right? The eddies, for any of you that are kayakers, I used to do a little bit of that. You go sit in an eddy so you could just chill for a hot second. And it's this place where nothing's moving. It's this just cool little place, maybe in a river where there's just still. And when we're in that place for a long time in our own lives, our hopes of success sort of flow by us, just like the water in the river when we're sitting in an eddy. And when we're in this place of complacency, we have these regretful tales, if you will, of like, I wish I would have done, or I could have done, or man, I should have done, as we look back. And nothing breaks my heart more than when I see complacency become a default life setting for people. And maybe you know people who maybe they once had dreams that they once wanted to pursue, but now they've sort of slipped into this gap of easy, not content. Again, they're sort of like what's most convenient, what's sort of a guarantee, and so they sort of, and maybe you found yourself. I know, there's moments where potentially we show up physically every day into something, but inside of you, maybe you wonder, dang, shouldn't I feel more engaged in my life, right? Like, is this all it is? I mean, shouldn't there be more? I mean, what I hear sometimes is people sort of talk about, man, I might consider making a change, but gosh, change gets hard. And trust me, there's been so many moments in my life where there's been an opportunity to change, but it feels really hard. And I'm sure we've all been there. It feels hard. And the path forward potentially isn't clear. And that's when I almost think like complacency just sort of smiles at us. It sort of rears its little head on our shoulder and sort of invites you back in because it's safe there. That's our default setting. We sort of like it. And then complacency, like I said, it's sort of like quicksand. And before you know it, you're literally down to your knees. And then what happens is moving on feels harder because complacency sort of become a bit of a lifestyle. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, a guy who helps me with a bunch of stuff, and we were talking and I think what happens is we lose the urge to go for more. And with this particular gentleman I was talking to, it's tragic because I think we can get to that place and we've lost our sense of self. So we have an opportunity to rethink drive, understand its enemy of complacency. But what if we can't detect complacency and keep it at bay? In other words, we have to be able to see that it's happening in our life, to detect it, to shield it off at some level so that it can't take root, so that that little invasive weed can't come in, so that our knees can't get down to the middle of the sand, right? And if we, dare I say, live into the traditional definition of drive, the risk of complacency is uncannily and remarkably high. I have a better way, a more current approach, and it's something I call dynamic drive. It's a vision for your life that's fueled by your purpose, okay? Because achievement doesn't bring fulfillment. Achievement is directly connected to drive. Achievement does not bring fulfillment. Purpose does. So dynamic drive is this unending pursuit of better. This pursuit of better versions of ourselves every day. Again, not for selfish reasons, but because it allows us to pursue better, in turn, show up as a better version of ourselves in the world, as a wife, as a mother, sister, friend, leader. Dynamic drive, it is the spark that ignites and fuels, this is how I define it, the joyful pursuit of a better life. Dynamic drive is the spark that ignites and fuels the joyful pursuit of a better life. It's a way of life. Here's the deal. It's a mindset. It's a daily commitment to live in a way that aligns with your soul. It's not the linear pursuit of a singular goal. Achievement. Achievement is just part of the journey, 100%. Will you achieve when we live into dynamic drive? You bet. You bet. But it's just part of the journey. It's not the end goal. Dynamic, when we just think about the word dynamic, it's defined as constant change, activity, or progress. It also says a force that stimulates change or progress within a system or process. That's the definition of the word dynamic. Keyword, progress, not a singular moment. Dynamic drive combines the goal-directed, pressing urgency, if you will, of the typical definition of drive with a purpose-driven, evolving nature. See, we live in a world that change is constant. Our lives are changing constantly. It's something, with every keynote I deliver, I hear from everybody. The amount of change everybody in the world is navigating right now is astounding. And so we can either hide our head in the sand, or we can learn to be flexible and step toward the opportunities that are afforded to us inside of change. See, dynamic drive, this way of life, it's a choice. It's about becoming a person who embraces the fluidity of life and the positive energy that it can unlock in all of us, which is so real. See, dynamic drive recognizes that we are always a work in progress. And we're human. We are dynamic. We're a work in progress, and our goals change, don't they? Our goals change. I think our purpose evolves, and so do we, right? I mean, there was 20 years of my life where my purpose was 100%. I love my life and the clients that I led as a sports agent. Man, was it meaningful. Man, was it powerful. Man, did I love it. Wow. But then I wrote a couple books, and then I started getting asked to speak, and that filled me up way more. The opportunity to share these unique stories from the perch, an incredible blessing, and a perch of courtside seat. At some level, I say a privileged perch of seeing some of the best athletes and coaches in the world every single day. And so sharing those stories with others, both in business and otherwise, it was so fulfilling. And so our purpose can evolve. See, dynamic drive, it's a process by which we implement and sustain intentional change. It's an approach to life that, and this is really important, that roots success in creating deep alignment with our values and our priorities. Have you ever asked somebody, you see these people that are just busy, running. What are you chasing? What are you chasing? See, dynamic drive allows us to ensure that our pursuit is anchored in our values and in our priorities. Dynamic drive is, here's what's cool, it's sustainable because it's fueled by purpose. When we know why we do what we do, it changes what we do. Dynamic drive actually, it instead of depleting our energy, it renews it. It's, think about it like this. This is how I loved it. Dynamic drive, it's like, it's healthy living, right? Like, it's not a diet. It permeates every aspect of your life. And it has no goal line. It's unending. It's essentially stacking days on days of putting in the work that you love because it's anchored in your values and your purpose to get better. And it's a muscle at some level that we strengthen daily with intention. Here's an important thing to think about when we think about this kind of drive. It doesn't wait for confidence to do something. It doesn't wait. It establishes it. It establishes confidence, right? It steps into an obstacle because it knows that there's an opportunity there. It steps into it, and by stepping into it, we strengthen our confidence muscle as we potentially have some wins and we have some misses. We fail. Dynamic drive welcomes the opportunity for us to be resilient because of the gifts that are inside of that. It's about looking at challenges as opportunities, at change as a gift. And here's what's important to remember. We're human beings who need connection because our lives are empty without it. And have you ever seen somebody just pursue, achieve? I have, and this breaks my heart. And they're all by themselves. Man, that breaks my heart. It really does. And I saw that way too much. And that's a slippery slope of becoming complacent in relationships, potentially unintentionally, as you pursue the traditional definition of drive. And sadly, you achieve that thing, but at what cost? Here's the thing about dynamic drive. It's available to introverts, it's available to extroverts, it's available to leaders, it's available to non-leaders. It's a belief system that yeses will come if we just pursue and sort of stay the course. And the no's along the way, which, trust me, I didn't sign every athlete I went after. I don't kill every single keynote that I deliver. I didn't get every athlete I went after. I have failed over and over again in my life, but it's not about the failure. It's about what we learn from it and strengthening our resilience muscle, not just to come back, but to come back better. Because dynamic drive isn't about achievement. It's about fulfillment. It isn't about fame. It isn't about money. It isn't about winning. It's about who you become as a result of the journey and the lives that you change along the way. Dynamic drive, it's not like the candle on top of the cake. It's the layers underneath. Now, here's the thing. Drive isn't about motivation, because motivation can be fleeting. Motivation is part of dynamic drive, but it can come and go. One day you're motivated and then the next day maybe you're not. Dynamic drive is a way of life that at some level causes us to never want to hit the snooze button. You'll with this kind of drive wake up from a life of autopilot. See, think about it like this. Dynamic drive isn't about achievement, but rather fulfillment. It isn't about fame. It's not about money. It isn't about winning. It's about who you become as a result of the journey and the lives that you change along the way. No matter who you are or what you want or what you've accomplished or not accomplished, you can unlock and harness dynamic drive to realize your wildest dreams. I promise you. To redirect what sadly I think we've been told to believe, which is this pursuit of the traditional definition of drive, to this pursuit of an achievement. See, dynamic drive isn't about what you achieve. It's about who you become. And so maybe you're a little bit burned out. Maybe you feel forced to grind it out. Or maybe you're killing it. You're wildly successful and you feel, though, alone. Maybe you're Maybe you're climbing the ladder at work, but it isn't fun anymore. Maybe you're feeling kind of disconnected from important relationships in your life. If you're, dare I say, if you're stuck in some area of your life, whether it's personally or professionally, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, dynamic drive is a formula to ignite or reignite your purpose, to renew your energy, and to ignite that spark that's inside of all of us that maybe has gone a little bit dormant and complacency has found its way in. See, along the way, every day, you, we, I, all of us, we have a choice to tap into a way of life that is anchored in the pursuit of better every day, not focused on the traditional definition, but what I've just touched on a bit here today, a dynamic definition. One that keeps complacency at bay because it has no opportunity to creep in. Because we're focused on the pursuit of better. We're not focused on a particular achievement or a moment in time. With dynamic drive, we strive, we never settle. We welcome change, or we don't stay put. We stay focused on our deepest values and we live into them. We step often, as I say, in between the lines of life and go for it. So Mr. or Mr. Webster, Mr. or Mrs. Webster, so you might be thinking, okay, Molly, got it. Drive, its opponent, if you will, is complacency. You have challenged me with this more purposeful pursuit of a better life that is dynamic in nature, that's anchored in our deepest values, our purpose, that isn't focused on a particular outcome in time, on a particular achievement. And maybe you're listening and you think, wow, this is interesting because I am a little stuck physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally. I'm a little bit stuck and unintentionally have become settled into an eddy in my life. So Molly, great. Where do I start? So start here. Ask yourself this. Are there areas in your life where you're playing small? Where you're playing small or safe, or where you're dissatisfied? And then consider this. What's at risk to make a change? What's at risk if you don't? And imagine what's possible. Imagine what's possible if you step into the pursuit of better, anchored in your purpose, anchored in your values. Here's what's possible. Anything is possible. Let's go. Tap into the spark that's inside of you. Keep complacency at bay and live into this thing you're going to be hearing me talk a lot about, dynamic drive.